From the mystical breeze in the morning till the dawning of a new day.
Greetings, and tonight welcome to the Sista Lel show on Bless FM. For those of you who can't get us on the FM, please pass it around. It's www.blessradio.org. Now on tonight's show, we are going to be interviewing Brother Minkah, that is the founding member, sorry about that, the founding member of AVSS, which is Afruika Bantu Saturday School, and he's been a community activist for over 40 odd years. So we're going to start tonight by playing you a track which is Breaking Down Barriers by Black and Malone.
No matter what I gone through, pressure and tribulation, Jah gives we positive vibration. Living and loving our lives. Living and loving our lives.
Only way we are gonna make this thing work. Iron sharp my iron in the earth. Oh Lord, love is honesty and that we put first. So you are gonna say the truth hurts.
So barriers we break them down. Jah love come make us spread it around. Africa we sailing home. Jah children come along. Barriers we break them down. Jah love come make us spread it around. Together with this wailing song. The white, the red, the black and the brown. Again.
So clinically we are trying spiritually. We rising up the youths from the trenches and the alley. No folly. We got our work just to do, Mama. Africa's a calling you.
Stepping natural royal, back to Mama Africa, back to we roots and we culture. Jah love, surrender. Power of the Trinity I conquer. Break them love come make we spread it around. Africa we sailing home. Their children come along. Barriers we break them down. Their love come make we spread it around. Together with this wedding song. The white, the red, the black and the brown.
The news they feed us on the TV is poison for the brain. All I see completely, fraud is what they claim. So I beg you look deeply, many are lose and few again. So we must collaborate and stop the hate to find the up and them up on the street.
So barriers we break them down. Their love come make we spread it around. Africa we sailing home. Their children come along. Barriers we break them down. Their love come make we spread it around. Together with this wedding song. The white, the red, the black and the brown. Stepping in a Gideon, stepping out of Babylon.
Leave out the road, leave out the road.
Stepping in a Gideon, stepping out of Babylon.
Need to go home, leave out the road.
Oh, stepping in a Gideon, stepping out of Babylon.
Want to go home, need to go home.
Stepping in a Gideon, stepping out of Babylon.
Leave out the road, leave out the road.
No matter what I went through, pressure and tribulation, Jah gives sweet positive vibration. Living and loving our lives. Living and loving our lives.
Only way we are gonna make this thing work. Iron sharp my iron in the earth. Oh Lord, love is honesty that we put first. So you are gonna say the truth hurts.
Yes, all my life, all my life, I've given yes all that is worth. Yes, we always have to give a thanks for the things He provide from this earth.
So 2 head better than 1, 3 better than 2. Treat your neighbors like yourself, I the best you can do.
1, 2, 3 in a holy trinity. Forward in a identity. Break them down. Your love come make we spread it around. Africa we sailing home. Their children come along. Barriers we break them down. Your love come make we spread it around. Together with this wedding song. The white, the red, the black and the brown. Stepping in a Gideon, stepping out of Babylon.
Leave out the road, leave out the road.
Stepping in a Gideon, stepping out of Babylon.
Need to go, leave out the road.
Oh, stepping in a Gideon, stepping out of Babylon.
This one next coming up is Roots by Nature and Sons of Dub. It's called Teach the Youth About Garvey. This one is going out special request from Tasha.
Teach the youth about Garvey. Them colonial laws is hindering our progress. Got to break free from them pagan tradition. African solution to Africa's problem. Afrocentric curriculum in our institution. Dismantle all barriers and borders of division. For people in the West, time for repatriation. Up the mighty race and accomplish your mission. Here comes the hour of Africa's redemption. Teach the youth about Yahweh. Teach the youth about Yahweh. Ethiopia is the cradle of mankind. Civilization began at the banks of the Nile. Forces of slavery couldn't colonize. Gadamawi Haile Selassie, victorious over fascist Mussolini, the barbarian. They tried to take away we heritage and culture. Cause my people bow to a false picture. Propaganda via them news media. It's about Yahweh. I teach the youth about Yahweh. Yahweh. I teach the youth about Yahweh. Some get mystified, some some get ignorant. Most can decide what to do with them life. Some suck blood like vampire in the night. I and I give praise to King of Kings Selassie. Teach the youth about Yahweh. Teach the youth about Yahweh. Ethiopia is the cradle of mankind. Civilization began at the banks of the Nile. Forces of slavery couldn't colonize. Got them away highly Selassie. Victorious over fascist Mussolini, the barbarian. They tried to take away we heritage and culture. Cause my people bow to a false picture. Teach the youth about Yahweh. Teach the youth about Yahweh.
One coming up is Roots and Culture by Black and Malone.
Need more roots and culture. Yeah, we feel
this one is on the Rebel Warrior rhythm.
For the youth, yeah, yeah, we future. Live it up, live it up, live it up for the children. Teach the youths the truth and not fool them. No easy timing. Papa and mama on the front lining. Ready for some real talking. Ready for your warning, ready for your roots living. Real talking. Ready for your warning, ready for the culture preaching. Let them know themselves. Know where they come from, know where they're going. Kings and queens, give thanks for the royal blessings. Yeah. Roots and culture is a must for you and me. Yeah. Roots and culture. It's time to set we families free. Give with the roots and culture. Live it up, feed the children. Give with the roots and culture. Roots and culture, feed the future. Give with the roots and culture. Live it up, feed the children. Give with the roots and culture. Roots and culture is a must, yeah. Roots and culture is a must, yeah. Roots and culture, feed the future. Roots and culture, for me, for you. Roots and culture, forevermore. Teach the youths about Mama Africa. Tell them about back in the days. Make them know them have to be strong. No one could have ever come twist them down. Hey, them have to be wise. No one should have ever come tell them lies. Them have to realize roots and culture is a must, yeah. Roots and culture in our family. Roots and culture in our liberty. Roots and culture, free up community. Roots and culture, set we youths them free. Roots and culture is a must for you and me. Yeah. Roots and culture, it's time to set we families free. Give with the roots and culture. Live it up, feed the children. Give with the roots and culture. Roots and culture, feed the future. Give with the roots and culture. Live it up, feed the children. Give with the roots and culture. Roots and culture is a must, yeah. Roots and culture is the future. Roots and culture is what we need. Roots and culture, as you can see. Roots and culture in our meditation. Roots and culture, free we mind. Roots and culture feeds we soul. Roots and culture, as you can feel. Roots and culture, in our we born. Roots and culture, in our we blood. Roots and culture, in our we brain. Roots and culture, don't go nowhere. Roots and culture, in our we vein. Roots and culture, in our we food. Roots and culture, in our we clothes. Roots and culture, in our we air. Roots and culture, anywhere. Roots and culture is a must for you and me. Yeah. and culture. Roots and culture, feed the future. Give we the roots and culture. Live it up, feed the children. Give we the roots and culture. Roots and culture is a must, yeah.
It's up to me and you. Up to me and you. It's up to me and you.
This one is by Mikey General. It's called Teach the Children. It's available on 7
What you gonna teach the children? What you gonna teach the youth? What you gonna teach the children? Are you gonna tell them the truth? Eh? So what you gonna teach the children? What you gonna teach the youth? Eh? What you gonna teach the children? Are you gonna tell them the truth? Teach them about love, life, liberty, justice and equality for all of humanity. All of humanity. Cause we don't have any option. We have to keep them from corruption. That is mashing up the land. We have to show them the right from wrong. So, what you gonna teach the children? What you gonna teach the youth? What you gonna teach the children? Are you gonna tell them the truth? Whoa. What you gonna teach the children? What you gonna teach the youth? What you gonna teach the children? Are you gonna tell them the truth? Set an example by the life you live.
This one is by Conscious Youth and it's called Traveling On.
music to set you free. Musical liberty, you know, for each and everybody. Compensate I breathe. Musical melodies. Compensate I breathe. This is the remedy. Jaja music is the key. Jaja music is the key. Jaja music is the key to set I free. We got to stand up and fight.
This one is Dub Dada and it's called Ja Music is the Key. This is going forward to Kamara, all the way over there in Bristol.
Ja music is the key. Ja music is the key. I said to Babylon them out of line. But the Rasta we have one plan. Say we're taking a stand. Say the stand for freedom. Everyone, we must be counted. In Jabba, you will be anointed. Pointed to the right direction, yeah. It's thy liberty, set I free. Musical remedy, musical melody. Set I free.
Greetings, my sister.
Greetings, Brother Minkah. How are you?
I am excellent, my sister. Barigani, I'm well.
Fantastic.
Getting into the Kwanzaa season.
Yes, it is that season right now. So, how have you been enjoying the past, what is it, 3 days?
3 days now.
Yes.
It's been wonderful. It's been wonderful, my sister.
Oh,
wonderful.
Give thanks. So, we're going to start by asking you to explain what ABSS is, and then afterwards, if you could tell us how you became involved in this and why. That's kind of 3 questions in one.
Okay, what was the second one about how did one get involved in what, my sister?
In the organization.
Okay, fine, no problem. Okay, as we mentioned, my name is Brother Minkah from the Afruika Bantu Saturday School, one of the founder members. This next year marks our 22nd year of organizing the Saturday School. The Saturday School came about as a result of parents and teachers, black parents and teachers, feeling very concerned about how the education system was failing our children.
Mm-hmm.
We felt that it was not good enough to just moan about this problem.
Yeah.
But we had to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And we were led by our sister Afruika Bantu, also known to some as Annette Blair at the time, in pulling together concerned individuals about establishing the school. Now, within the school, we cater for children from the ages of 5 to 16. We cover the national curriculum subject of English, math, science. We've now introduced computer coding and what we think is fundamental, which is our Black stroke African history. We think it's critical that our children have a sense of who they are. And for that, we see our Black history as being integral and fundamental to all of the subjects that what we teach, but we also, of course, have it as a separate subject. Within our Black history, we expect it to, and we know it does, boost the self-confidence of our pupils, and of course, rise their level of self-esteem. We've had to fight a massive struggle to maintain our education program. We're not funded at all by the state, but that has not prevented us from continuing because we've had the support from our community. I have been to Bless FM in the past, long time ago, and I know that you're very supportive. It's a conscious station. They've been supportive of us in the past when we have passed through. And other community radio stations such as Galaxy, such as SLR, such as Omega, just to name but a few. We would not survive if it wasn't for the support of important community radio stations like that. And of course, vibesfm.net, in particularly our great brother, Sugar Dread. So we've been organizing and supporting our children over the years that I've mentioned. But we've also felt it was important to network amongst other community schools. So we've worked with Nubia African Community Foundation School. We've worked with the Queen Mother Moore Saturday School. Unfortunately, that school is going through some difficulties at the moment, but we hope, and we've expressed to them, we're ready to give support to make sure that they can strengthen and we don't see another Saturday school fall by the wayside. We also work with the Al-Kabelan Academy of Excellence. They're based in Layton. I know this is a internet radio station, so therefore, and I know you're on the FM as well, but for those that are living in the South London area where our school is based, it is based in the St. Martin's Community Centre, Abbots Park, St. Martin's Estate, Upper Taos Hill, Southwest 2, 3PW. But as I've mentioned before, we work with other schools which are not necessarily in the South London area because we feel education is imperative. We feel that our young Black youth in particular is being targeted to fail. We have a sister within our community, Cheryl Phoenix, who works on the Black Child Agenda, who constantly giving support to our community around, specifically around the issues of education. And she makes it clear, drawing upon the experience of what we've seen in America, that the system as how it stands is using education today as a pipeline to prison for many of our young men in particular. So once we see these happening, it's imperative that we as a community should come together to do something about it. So I've mentioned those other schools we've worked with, and it's important that we actually go beyond Saturday school, but think also about setting up a full-time operational school for our children. I've mentioned the Al-Kabelan Academy of Excellence, and I understand they have a small full-time school operating in the Leighton area. And so it's very important that we as a community should support these initiatives, because without the community support, these very important initiatives will die. And we should not lose sight of when our great, and we had a little talk about this earlier on, sister, when one of our great leaders, Malcolm X, he described the education system as the killing fields. But I want to say that we have to draw on the strength of our ancestors. And despite the trap that the system has set for us within the educational system, it's important that we don't feel that they will always have their own way. So we're proud to say in our 22 years, we've been able to navigate through supporting our young people through the education system, so much so that we have them coming back into our school teaching. So for example, in our English teacher graduated in law, one of our early members of the Saturday school have come back to put our spare time, it's not even spare time, it's about service to the community, coming back.
So would you
we
say...
also have in our maths department a young sister who heads up a maths department in the mainstream school, who comes back and she heads up our maths, deliver our maths curriculum with support also.
So would you say, Brother Minkah, that...
Sorry, sister?
Would you say then that for the results that your organization achieves is that you have students who get to graduate stages and become professionals and actually return to the school to also contribute? So it's an each one teach one situation?
Definitely, and this is why our Black history is so important. Because we would not feel happy if some of our children, we just got through and we just focused on the academic achievement. Academic achievement is very good, but without a sense of self, without a sense of community, we don't really, that is not our aim at all. So definitely, them coming back, rooted in their Black history, we feel that is what we're really proud of.
That's fantastic. So, would you say that it's a high percentage of students that actually come back and are able to, from what they've learned, start to contribute back to the community and supporting it in different ways, in you know, with the school and etc.?
Definitely. We pride ourselves on that. I could have gone on to speak about in the science department, 25-year-old young Tomani Joseph. He just recently, well, a couple of years now, graduated in biomedical science. One of our pupils who's back teaching science now with support. We also have one of our students, we just last year, is gone up to medical school, and we hope, well, we know that when he goes through that process, he will come back. But I think it's important for us as a community not just to look at education in isolation. And so the parents have a very important role to play. And in that regard, we have to see this whole issue of education as a community issue. And we must come together to support our young people, because even some of those who do their very best, they still find themselves in a community in which many of our young people, and particularly our boys, have been felt so much by the education system, they generally turning in on themselves. And so when we see issues such as knife crime, when we see certain things like drug pushing within our community, we've got to be clear that no child in our community is particularly safe. It could happen to any one of them. Not necessarily to be caught up in that lifestyle, but to be caught up within an environment in which some of our young people, as a result of the system, number one, failing them, and number two, encouraging a tremendous amount of self-hatred, then none of our children are safe. So it's very important that what we recognize, if we don't solve this problem, then we won't really survive it. So we've got a lot of work to do, but we feel that we can solve it. It's not rocket science why some of our young people go astray. Number one, it's being failed by the education system. Within the education system, as I say, there's a tremendous amount of self-hatred that can be turned around through organization. The lack of opportunities in terms of training, and of course, the lack of employment. We as a community have got to focus around these need to make sure our young people have an alternative. And so we, within our school, will be organizing workshops that does look at the issues of gangs, for example. Some of the dangers which are out there, make sure that they're aware of the little warning signs. We do have career workshops. We do work with other organizations like Origin, which is a rites of passage organization. And we also work with, we're very close to the Manhood Academy.
Oh, fantastic.
So, whilst a lot of people like to focus on the negative, there's a lot of positiveness going on within our community. And it's important that as a community, we don't just see ourselves on the sideline, but do our very best to do what we can to give support. And I think in that regard, Blitz FM, as I've mentioned, of our community radio station, is playing a very vital role, because it gives opportunity to someone like me and others to explain to our community what is going on, and hopefully encourage them to also get involved. And in saying that, of course, I know you're going to come on to it, but we're also organizing a community Kwanzaa celebration. And for those people that are not too familiar with Kwanzaa, which is very unfortunate because it's been going now for at least 52 years now. It's around 52 years. It is celebrated in the Caribbean. It is celebrated on the motherland, but in particularly in America, where there's quite a few millions that actually celebrate it. And for us as a school, difficult as it is, it's important for our young people to know that we have our own celebrations. And although it's not often said, but most of the celebrations in which that what we have, whether it's being Easter, whether it be Christmas, whatever it is, and I'm not knocking people of those beliefs, but any celebration that doesn't celebrate us then we should be concerned about that. And as we enter this period of what they call Christmas, the 25th of December, which all serious theologians know, that if this individual ever existed, and that's a serious debate, he certainly wasn't born on that day. And if anybody is familiar with the celebration around the 25th, we know it's got its history in paganism.
Yes, but
And
not African paganism, which I think many people are not clear
that's
on.
right. That's right. We don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean it is that they weren't Christians.
Yes.
And for Christians, which are so critical of our beliefs, upholding a celebration like this, it just seems to me a bit of a contradiction. And so we need a celebration that celebrates us, and this is exactly what Kwanzaa celebration is all about. And we're pleased to inform our community that what we will be organizing a Kwanzaa celebration, in fact, tomorrow.
Okay, can you give the details of that event tomorrow?
Most definitely, my sister. Now, that will be taking place at St. Martin's Community Center. As I've mentioned, it will be Saturday the 29th of December, starting time 4 p.m. It's going to be the venue will be the Abbott's, yes, it will be the St. Martin's Community Center, and that's on Abbott's Park, St. Martin's Estate, Upper Taos Hill, Southwest 2, 3PW. And the phone number for further information is 07486388587. I repeat, 07486388587. This will be, my sister, the Kwanzas of Kwanzas.
Wonderful.
It will be spectacular. I don't want to talk about other Kwanzas. I will comment. There will be a couple other Kwanzas I will mention near the end of the interview.
Yes.
I'm in different parts. That's not a problem. However, we are very clear that the children, as Kwanzaa literally means the first fruits
Yes.
of the harvest, and we've got to look at it as a metaphor, as allegory. We're using the fruits to represent our children.
Yes.
They are our fruits. They are our harvest. So we're not asking anybody to go into any field or knock down any bushes and cut down. No. We recognize. Right. You know, we're living in almost a barren land. Everything them get is from somewhere else. But never mind. So there's a lot of symbolism in our celebration, but it's deeply rooted in our African culture. And so when you come along to our Kwanzaa celebration, I make no apologies for saying that you will not see children as dynamic and confident about themselves and our history anywhere else. And we're not bragging just as the Afruika Bantu Saturday School, because we're proud to say that we're working in collaboration with Nubia. So you will have presentation from their children. And we're also open, working on it, to get a contribution from Al Cableland Academy of Excellence. Now, anybody that knows Al Cableland, they will know that it's their par excellence, their children. And we we walk in their footsteps.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
we cooperate a lot. We just had a sports day with them, and they were able to win us on the trophy front. And we're hoping each Kwanzaa, our children will rise to the high mark that they've set to make sure that we hold the crown when it comes down to our children highlighting and demonstrating the power of our children within the community. So I really urge our community to make some effort to come down, because we have to support our children. And most
Absolutely.
importantly, children must see other children in a powerful, confident way in which so that they can identify with, as opposed to the negative images that our youths and our community is bombarded with 365 days in the year. If a young person cannot think something, then they cannot be it. So
Absolutely.
we have got to show them that they can be it. Alongside our program of children, we will be having our African market. We're organizing on the day of Ujama. This is the third day of Kwanzaa. And Ujama means cooperative economics. And so we have asked all of members of our community who are giving solidarity message to include that. And it will be brief solidarity message. This is not a political meeting. And when I say political, I mean it's politics with a small p. It's not politics with a big P. It is a cultural celebration. But we can't lose sight of the fact that as a community, we're at war. And I don't use that word lightly. I don't use it lightly. This system is making big money of locking up our youths. It's no secret that to keep a young man in prison is more than actually sending him to one of our top private schools. People are making big money of locking them up, whether it be the lawyers, whether it be the court staff, whether it be the prison that's holding them there, the staff which is paid to keep them there, which is the people that send food to these prisons. An industry is being created by really introducing what can only be termed as modern day slavery. We have a parasitical system which is living off our young people, and particularly our boys, by maintaining them in this criminal injustice system. And so it's very important we don't look at this thing as any joke. And that's why we've invited community organization, because the first principle of Kwanzaa is emoja. And as we look at the 7 principles, which I can touch on, no problem.
Yes, please do.
If we don't have unity, then the rest of the principles do not mean very much. So
But,
I will just give a brief account of our celebration, and then I will touch on those principles. So we've invited different organizations to come along, and in particular, we've invited a variety of organizations from different backgrounds, including student minister Abdul Akim Muhammad, the European representative of the NOI. And they have got on the ground at the moment an action plan which puts forward to our community 9 ministries of empowerment. So, for example, you will have a ministry of community ministry of justice. We will have one around health. We will have one around youth. We will have one around culture, and so on. And it is our intention that every Kwanzaa celebration we have, we return back to our community to tell our community the progress we've made within the year. So whilst it is a celebration, it is also a call for action. We will have our African market, which we hope to circulate the black pound. We need to support our black businesses.
Very true.
So much of our black businesses have been closed down because of high rates and high rents. So
I think
we have an
high rates
opportunity.
and lack of community support to keep them sustained.
This is where, sister, we can never ever leave out our black history, because if you're not rooted within your culture, then you don't know why you should be supported. The Asian man knows why he's supporting Asian. White people know why they're supporting white. But we, because of due to that lack of knowledge of self, from our point of view, we just walk idly by. Meanwhile, our shops are just closing down, and we wonder why. But you're right, my sister. A lot of the much of that responsibility is on us as a community, because if we're doing the support, then we would be a stronger community than what we are. So, but on this day, we will be having an African market. We will be having healthy food available on sale. We say that there will be a £5 donation. We're not going to turn nobody away. But we're not a funded school. And everything that what we spend, that what we receive goes back into our school. And I have to tell you, sister, it's not easy to maintain an independent education program, especially with the mindset of so much of our community. And there will be cultural entertainment, in particularly from young people. Young people is the focus of our celebration. And we're not in a massive venue, so I want to urge people to come on time. We will be starting on time. We created time as an African people. We taught the world about the time, how to work out the time. So I don't know where we get this habit from of turning up late to so much events, but I can tell you this now for nothing. Anybody who turn up late, they're gonna miss a lot. So we're encouraging people. When we say 4, we mean 4. 4:15, the latest we start up. In fact, our drummers will be drumming from 4. Okay, so this is not one of those events that you're gonna come and wait around. And if you're not careful, you might not even get a seat. So we're urging people to come on time. We say it's a £5 donation. We're not going to turn nobody away. Under 21 is free. It's our children event. We ain't keeping none of our children away. Making every effort to make sure that we make it easy for our children to embrace their culture and to see what they can do, which the system outside is not showing them. We want to thank also, as I mentioned, economics, the sponsors from Rudy's Air. We got Chief Bakery. We've got the Nation of Islam. We've got Al Cable and Revivalist Movement. We've got the Global African Congress. And we've got our brother, great brother, Twilight Bay. Reason. Okay, I can't even make it out on the fly, my sister, but brother Twilight Bay, reasoning. I'll get the full details of that later on. Okay. So, that is the program for the day. It will be on the day of Ujama. We've put down 2019 to be rebuild a family, rebuild a nation, and we'll say 9 ministries for community empowerment. So we don't expect this to be no talk shop. It's going to be a cultural celebration, but we'll also have a powerful message to our community to come together. Now, for those people that's not familiar with Kwanzaa, I think it's important to say just a few words on that. And
Yes,
I'm open to any questions that you may have on that matter.
okay.
Kwanzaa, as we know it today, was created, was put forward rather than created by our dear brother Maulana Karenga, who, going back in 1966, our community was suffering much of the injustice that what we suffer today. Part of the suffering Maulana identified in his organization, US, was rooted in our lack of cultural awareness, a lack of understanding who we are and where we're coming from. And he felt that rather than keep on saying, you know, the white man is this, the white man is that, what did we have to celebrate? So, in being a scholar, he went back as far back as Kemet to look at the celebrations as a community. And when I say Kemet, let me get this in quick. You know, Kemet is the child of Ethiopia, of Sudan. You know, it's not just, we don't just focus on Kemet. The whole region was a region of greatness in terms of its civilization. And I know, and it's easy to forget about Ethiopia and Sudan because many people like to look at current day Egypt with really just Johnny come lately individuals and to try and give them the credit for what our black, Nubian, black African ancestors created. And so we can't forget the roots of the Kemet civilization. But he went there, he went to that region, he looked at what the celebrations were. He looked at contemporary Africa and he saw what the celebrations were. And through this study, he brought together the celebration of Kwanzaa. Now, Kwanzaa is spelled K-W-A-N-Z-A-A. People that's familiar with the African continent will know that in Angola, for example, you have got the currency called Kwanzaa, and you will find that coming up in different regions, particularly the West African region. And so, but he deliberately put the extra A on the Kwanzaa, and the extra A represents the Africans outside of the continent. So he wasn't trying to reproduce a celebration which was unique to one particular region of Africa, but he wanted to bring forward a celebration that would bring together the main ingredients from the various different celebrations into one. And he felt this was important because the biggest problem that confronts us as a community is our lack of unity. And so therefore, the celebration's aim was to bring that together. So with the Kwanzaa celebration, he didn't feel it should be a celebration that should keep out people that are of a particular Christian belief or a Muslim belief or any kind of other belief. He felt the most important thing for us to recognize, as Malcolm makes very clear, that we're not attacked because we're Muslims, we're not attacked because we're Christian, we're attacked based upon the color of our skin. And whilst Malcolm, as we were having a short discussion earlier on, felt that whilst he felt that religion was important, he felt that when we come together, we have to leave the outside. And it's important to have that understanding because we can talk about religion until the car comes home. Meanwhile, our children are suffering. And so when we have or we see a divide and rule tactics out there or trap out there, we got to try and avoid it. But the system would want nothing more than for us to be arguing against each other. Meanwhile, the attack is unleashed and continues upon our community, in particularly our young boys in particular. And so, coming back to the principles of Kwanzaa, there are 7. And these 7 principles is called the Nguza Saba. But the celebration in which he identified was what he would call, what we've seen, when I've mentioned he looked at the various different countries, historically and current. What he identified was the Harvest Festival. And within that Harvest Festival, that festival didn't just happen on its own. Within that festival, it came from a community. And within that community, there were certain principles that held that community together. The obvious one is the role of elders, the relationship between elders, and the relationship of our young people. The elders there to give guidance. They were the custodian of our history, our tradition. And so within that, he took out what was the main, because he's trying to, Maulana Karangas, look, what's the thing that held us together before the divide and rule strategy? So he introduces us to the what he calls the Nguza Saba. And this Nguza Saba represents 7 principles. The 7 principles starting with number 1, Umoja, which is unity. The next one is Kuji Chagolia. Boy, that you need to practice that a bit, my sister, to get your tongue around that one. But that's very important. It means self-determination. The third one is Ujima, which is collective work and responsibility, which is today. The next one is Ujama, which is cooperative economics. The next one is Nia, which means purpose. The 6th one is Kumba, which is creativity. Imani, which is the last one, is faith. Now, within all those 7 principles, I could give you an example from here to God knows when. But the purpose of those principles as a part of a celebration is that we as a family and we as a community, when we come together, we've got to make meaning of these important words. And on each day of the celebration, we would then look at what does these mean to us as a family and as a community. And the children we encourage to take the lead on this. Alongside the principles, we have a shrine. The shrine is very, very important again. And on the shrine, we have both, on the shrine we will have a mat. And this mat is called the Mkeke. And this represents the foundation. We don't have nothing in life without a foundation. And our young children, as we take them through this, need to understand this. Key to our shrine, we will have our kinara, which is a candle holder of 7. And within that 7 candles, the candles will represent the 7 principles. And so on the right hand side, the left hand side of the candles would be red, the middle candle would be black, and the last 3 candles would be green. Now, anyone who's familiar with the Right Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey will know that he introduced these colors to us through creating our first national flag of the red, the black, and the green to symbolize us. So that is very key to be on our shrine. Also on our shrine, we would have what we call the mazoa, which is fruits and vegetables. And that stands really for our community. I've mentioned the MKK, which is the mat. We also would have on the shrine a vibonsi. Excuse me, my Swahili is not up to scratch. And that is the corn. And on the corn, each one of those corns represents our children. And they play a very, very important part. Now, within the family celebration of Kwanzaa, we would also have what we call the Zawadi. And this represents a gift. Now, the gift that what we have in our Kwanzaa celebration for our children is not any gift. The gifts that what we give our children must be educational. And when our children, as the family, come together and all of them give account of what they've done in the last year, any bad behaving children, anybody which is not really living up to expectations, they can't be expecting to be getting any zawadi.
Okay.
And they need to know that. And so before the Kwanzaa finishes, certainly within my family, and we put down our pledges for the next year. What is it we want to achieve in the next year? And then when we return as a family, the one that's achieved their objectives as they've agreed to do, and we don't mean any simple tasks, they will get an additional reward. So it's about the family engaging, and it's with the family engaging around certain serious principles. And when you come along to the Kwanzaa celebration, all of this would be highlighted, but it would be highlighted in particularly not in the form of a lecture, but in terms of the children carrying it out. So, for example, our children would come up, our children would light the candle, our children would be saying, well, what it means. Number one, they would be able to say what the day represents and also the meaning of it. So it's very interactive. Adults play a very small part. We're there to encourage and we're there to support, but it really is for our young people. Very, very interactive program. There is no event that you will go to or anybody will go to in the African community that they will see members of the community from 1 and maybe 0, because there will be pregnant women at the event. But I'm going to say 1, from 1 to 100. It really is a family occasion. And when we look at aspects of the program that maybe some of the young people may not be able to engage with, then we will organize a drumming workshop for them. Because we want that to be a fun occasion for every section of our community. Now, I've said quite a bit there, my sister. And as I suppose I should also say that there is controversy around the founder of Kwanzaa, Maulana Karenga. I come out with it before anybody does. That they've said that, you know, he's committed certain crimes. And
I mean, to be honest, all of this, whenever there's one of our nation's members in the community, we really can't get caught up in those kinds of gossiping because they tell so many lies. And
it is.
yeah, and what he's done with the Kwanzaa is really the key to our focus. What's going on in his personal life, despite whether he committed murder or any of these other atrocities. When he made Kwanzaa, he was in a particular mindset to be able to notice that and to bring it forth. Outside of that, what he chooses to do, we can't get caught up in that because that's his personal life. We need to always focus on the positive. I think one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Brother Minkah, is how do you feel, or how is trauma addressed? Because we've got so much trauma within our community. How do you feel, you know, we help to heal it in the Saturday schools? How do you feel you address those challenges? Because the children are seeing these behaviors in the adults. We don't always reflect a definition, which is something the children can look up to in our community, just in our interpersonal relationships. So how do you feel that the Saturday schools actually help with the development of that, because they learn very different behaviors outside?
Yeah, well, just come back a little bit, my sister. On Maulana Karenga, I don't want to spend any time, much time on it. All I just simply wanted to say is that, like what you said correctly, although I do take exception to one point I wanted to come on to that you've mentioned, I've met Maulana Karenga. I come from a tradition of coming up to 40 years of political activity, which was more influenced by the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party was at odds with the US organization that Maulana Karenga is in. But I can say without any doubt, and this is speaking from members of the Black Panther Party coming from those days, speaking from us today, that the both organizations was manipulated and undermined in all sorts of ways. And when they say that they don't accept these not allegations, these charges that was made against Maulana Karenga, included himself, I accept that. But it's important not to get into, like what you said, into whether he did this or done that, although I have to come up front and say that I believe when he said he didn't. It's not really about worshipping any individual. It really is about our tradition that goes back thousands of years before Maulana was born, and it's about us recognizing that. However, I did want to take you up on a point that you made about private life. I do think our private life is important. I think if I come on a public platform and I speak certain things and I go back home and I'm abusing my children or partner or wife or whoever it is.
And it can be, and sorry, Brother Minkah, that can be on any level. It can be, it doesn't have to be physical. I think people get abuse confused. It can be verbal, it can be psychological, it can be emotional, it can be about devaluing people in the way that you behave, speak, or talk to them, and undermining and being all these things are areas of causing traumas.
I mean, I accept that. I certainly accept that. But all I'm saying is that I don't think it's right for anybody to be talking conscious and then not living that out in their lives. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I do think it is important. And this has been one of the lessons we have to learn from our history. Because too often, many of us have come up and said all kinds of things. You know, black power this, black power that. And next minute, just to them ending up in the bed with white women. You know, it's these contradictions we cannot ignore. And I feel that if you say something, you should do your very best to uphold it. That's the only point I would make about private, because I just feel that all of us should be prepared once you stand up in front of your people to have your life scrutinized. I think it's very, very important because people are looking up to individuals and they have a responsibility. So yeah, that's just my quick take on that. On the issue of how the school is dealing with trauma, I mean, trauma, it seems to me, you know, is a result of people being damaged. And one of the things the education system does, it damages our young people, and it damages them from the standpoint of effectively telling them that their issue began in slavery. You know, it damages them to make them feel like, well, your main success is to be a footballer or to be some artist, some musical artist. I have nothing wrong with people playing football or when I get involved with the arts, but it can be more than that. And when these doors begin to close on our young people, it begins to have impact upon them. You know, and when an education system is telling you that you're not really capable, you know, it does bring in a great level of disorientation. And as you mentioned, you know, affects their mental well-being. I think to counter that, we have to draw upon our positive achievements. We have to, and this is where I think Kwanzaa plays such an important part. We have to show that we're not all the negative that's been presented to us. And key to the Kwanzaa celebration is that we try and instill within our community, it's going to go on 365 days a year.
Yes.
It's serious. It's not just we come out and we look good. And talking about look good, by the way, we'll be giving a prize to the best dressed African, best dressed youth in African attire. And I think this is extended to the adults as well. And let me throw this in quick. It's an African family gathering, just in case people are not sure. It's not a side show for outsiders. It's for our people to come in together in love. So that will also be happening. But to counter the trauma, we've got to really strengthen our community through positivity. We have to create a space. And I mentioned earlier on before about the 9 ministries. There are moves within South London to create a well-being cafe for us. You see, so we can have these drop-ins. So we can have qualified, conscious individuals that can do that one-to-one with our people. You know, so we feel our Saturday school and other Saturday schools as a cultural foundation is one of the biggest cure for the trauma that our children are going through. you know. And as I said, we don't separate that from the rites of passage programs that what we work with, which Origin is one, as I've mentioned. The other one is Manhood Academy. And we also have an Akua rites of passage program for young girls. And I understand the Manhood Academy might be doing that for young girls as well. So when we go back to our history, we will see that our ancestors have answers to all these problems we've got now. And so we have got to not just talk about our history and our culture, but we must begin to live it.
It's true. And I think, like you were talking about the 7 principles, and I think it's very important that we, as a group, due to where what we've been through, to completely understand what do you mean when you say unity. What do we, so each of those principles, what do we really mean? Because even though we're having that with the, and educating the children, the adults have very sealed or very formed or very brainwashed, whichever we want to say, ideologies about how life should be, and they operate in particular ways. Now, do we also say, well, this is the definition of unity? That's what it actually looks like.
Yeah, there's no doubt we've got a lot of work to do, and people will approach the issue of unity from different perspectives. But from our perspective is that anytime what we come together as a people, in terms of when we talk about unity, we've got to talk about, what is this unity for?
Yes.
What is it for? And I'm saying that it's about action. It's about creating programs that's going to address the issues that we as a community face. I don't look at the term unity in abstract. And you see, because there's a lot of people say they're for unity, and as soon as you develop a program and you call them to come together, we can't see them.
Yeah.
So we feel at the end of the day, talking is good. I love talking, but nothing beats practice. Okay? Good advice, them say it's good, but a good example is even better.
Yes.
So, so we're clear about that, but we don't want to look at unity in too much of a complicated way. It's not the unity to bring about change.
Yes.
In our community, that is the bottom line. And some of us are going to have to get our hands dirty.
Yes.
And make a little sacrifice.
Yes.
So, for example, now our day, 4th day of Kwanzaa, is focusing on Ujamaa. On that day, we will have different people that will be at that event. One group will be the African Credit Union.
Very good.
Right?
Yeah.
They will be seeking to sign up people for us as a community to empower our community economically.
Wonderful.
Now, we're not going to be there to say that, well, all right, Ujamaa. Yes, we will do that. We have to chant Ujamaa. But it's about putting that into practice. We have a brother by the name of Tyrone. He does a project called Project Shares. Investment. We can't just look at these principles in abstract.
Yes.
The brother, he owns a shop. He does healthy organic food, Mariandina, natural remedies. And he also want to invest in property so we can have a community building. It really is up to us. So, yes, unity, but I don't have a lot of time for people that just want to talk in abstract. I really want to get on with it, really and truly. And, we're going to make mistakes. But those mistakes we've got to learn from. You know, my sister. So yes, unity is important. And we're going to have to sit down and talk about what it means. But the bottom line is, it's about empowering our community. And if we don't want to do that, then my idea of unity, I don't really have much track with. And I think on the issue of unity, what we've got to be clear about is that it's about identifying the common denominator. We're not going to agree on everything. And we need to be clear on that, because if it's our view we're going to agree on everything, we'll never get anything done. You know?
Yes.
But principles are important. But at the same time, we must have flexibility. And we have to leave that fellow or lady ego out the door. Because that brother and sister, that brother and sister ego, when they come into the frame, we have too much problems.
Yes. They could. Brother and sister ego cause a lot of rippling effects and leave a trail behind them.
You know what I mean? So I hear that. You know, it's good to be strong-willed and determined, but not to the detriment of the collective. You know, not to the detriment of the collective. So yes, my sister. So if there's anything else, I mean, our school, as we said, it's there, and I know it is in the South London area, but if we've got committed people from North that want to set up something similar in their area, contact the number. And we can work together to see how we can bring, because we've got everything in place. We've got the framework in place. So it's just about reproducing. But in saying that, it's not to take away from other people doing work in these areas. And I did mention the Al-Kabelan Academy of Excellence, and they operate at 282 I Road, Leighton. Postcode East 10 5PW. And for those people, which I think is a bit sad to say this, but I'm going to say it, but some people will say, well, boy, it's all the way over South London, you know. I'm saying that this is a small price to pay for the empowerment and ultimate liberation of our people, because it's all about our young people. We really need to put in that sacrifice, because the system is coming with tremendous force. You know, they've got some of our young children now from 6 in pupils referral units. You know, our children are going to school now being told that a family is not a man, woman, and child anymore. Man and man, you know, this is what white people want to do with themselves, I have no problems with. But we have our culture and our tradition.
But how do
and we don't want them impose we don't want them to impose them culture and their tradition upon us. But if we're not clear about what's going on, we should be surprised when our children come out of those places so messed up. So number one, people need to be empowered with the information that they can take their children out of certain classes, certain subjects. And number two, as parents, we have to be doing debriefing and making sure our children are in positive environment, such as like the Kwanzaa, in which we have no illusions about what a family is. There's no confusion when we talk about an African family. But people have got to see it as well, not just to just know it, they got to see it. And that's one of the important things of our celebration. So coming back to Al-Kabelan, as I've mentioned, they're at the 282 I Road, Leighton, East 10, 5PW. And it's important for our community to also note that they're having a Kwanzaa Karamu which is a feast on the 31st of December, they're going to see in the new year amongst positive people. Okay? And if anybody with any long face and just vet, they just should just keep away. Because this is about a night of niceness, celebrating our culture. And that's going to be on the 31st of December, 6 till 12 midnight. So people like me who can't rave too late, that just fits me nice, you know. I can't do the 5 o'clock a morning thing anymore.
I don't think many of us can anymore.
Especially if the music ain't all that.
Very true.
So they're going to be having Natural Mystic down there and guest DJs, but those people over east don't think it's too much to come over south. Well, I want to encourage people to support them. Fantastic. And also, my great sister, oh my gosh, I don't spend enough time with, is our sister Lady Leo. I know that they're doing a Kwanzaa celebration on the 30th of December, 4 to 9:30 p.m. The Great Old Leighton, 1 Adelaide Road, East End, 5 in London. And we're working hard to get some of our children to come over. And the problem we have is not with the children, it's with the parents. So we're working on that. But for those people who are in that area, we encourage you to support those Kwanzaa celebrations as well, because it's all about us coming together, sis. It's all about us coming together. So within that Kwanzaa, you've got the Kwanzaa Network, which is a very important initiative, because a lot of people within our community, they love to say, boy, black people can't get together, we'll never go anywhere. Well, the Kwanzaa Network brought together about 12 different Kwanzaa organizations, and they organized a wonderful Kwanzaa on the 50th anniversary. And on the 55th, the plan is to come together again. So, you know, we do come together, but at the same time, very often, because the membership is so low in many of the organizations, it's not to say they don't want to come together more, it's just that the capacity to get involved in many initiatives is restricted. But the solution, again, is for more people to get involved in these organizations. So we've got the Kwanzaa Network, we've got the 100 Black Men of London, all right, which is involved within that Kwanzaa celebration. And yeah, try and give it some support, some heavy support, you know. And we're hoping really 2019 is going to be a real game changer for us, because we need to come together. And I just don't mean it in a glib way. I can tell you this now, that it is happening. It's happening, and we just got to build up on that. You know, my sister. So I hope people can go on, sis.
I was going to say, there was a wonderful separate celebration. I heard fantastic reports from Leeds, and I've heard that in Manchester, it's and in Birmingham as well. They are doing some great works in their community, and are having a very positive definition of Kwanzaa. It's been very well received, very loving, and a very positive day, I was told, from the Kwanzaa. So big up to all the people in Leeds in the community who celebrated Kwanzaa, what part of Kwanzaa yesterday. Reports were amazing.
Definitely, you see, and it's some people just don't know all these information, sister, that up and down the country we're having these celebrations.
Yeah.
You know, and we're hoping, as I says, on the 55th, not just to have 12 organizations, we wouldn't mind if we get 24.
Yes.
To really bring, you know, to do a serious extravaganza.
Yeah. Yes.
Some big venue where 2,000, 3,000 people
Can
to come.
Yeah, yeah.
And that means a lot to our children, you know, because when we can talk as much as we want, but, you know, to see our people come together, celebrating our culture, is such a powerful
Yes.
impact upon the mind and on the trauma
Yeah.
that you mentioned,
Yes.
that you've mentioned, which is
Yes.
very, very important.
Yes.
You know, so very, very important. So yes, my sister.
And I think
So I don't
it's
know.
wonderful.
Go on.
I think it's wonderful that the children are actually seeing examples to look up to, because on an everyday basis, those are squashed for them. So
Yeah.
this is such a nurturing experience for our children that sets very strong memories for them. So when they do, eventually mature into, their own young men and young women, they interact with each other in a positive way.
That's right. That's right. And if we had enough time, which we don't, we would really at our Kwanzaa celebration. That's why we have to have our own building. I don't even want to talk about that too much. I just want us to just keep quiet, and the next minute, I just want to come and say we've got it.
Yes. Yes.
Because I've heard the talk going on for such a long time. I just think now we just got to get some serious people together to make it happen.
And I
But
think
yes,
I think
go
it
on.
will, because I think what's happening now is that we're seeing before us, like, people who are doing things like a little bit like the template that the Chinese have got. They move slowly, so they are slow consolidators, and then build and keep building until they have, what we're seeing today, being able to buy out a whole, bridges, and putting in different things in other people's countries. So I think it takes time to build your infrastructure, and I think there's a lot of great works that are happening within the community, but it's just like a jigsaw puzzle, little by little.
Yeah. And I mean, just even on that Galaxy Radio, enough respect to our elder Chief Pakombrabai and also Dr. Apple, and of course Elder Erikuti, and all of the management doing some sterling work. They called recently a Summit of Solution.
Oh, wonderful.
And within that Summit of Solution, again, laying the foundation of our organizations coming together.
Wonderful.
So stations like this is invaluable because we have an opportunity to say to our community, people are always saying, well, we can't come together. But there's a lot of coming together, but it will not be as effective if we're always just waiting for something to happen. We got to come and strengthen that.
And I think it's not just waiting, it's making sure that your feet are in your lane, because some people are saying they're all for the community and they've got their one foot on one side of the fence and their other foot firmly planted in somebody else's fence, which means that we're, there's this kind of toing and froing, you're dipping in but you're not really in. And I think this is really good that there are pockets of people within the community who are showing the rest of the community what that definition should look like, and that is such an impacting visual imprint that you are leaving behind, with each event, with each Kwanzaa, with each of the schools that you've been taking part of. I think the work is immeasurable.
Yeah, almost, most definitely. And as I said, when we come together, there will always be mischief makers.
Yeah.
But that's why I don't mind talking a lot, because within the talking we clarify what we mean, and we write things down as well. Because accountability, principles, accountability, transparency, are all components that we can never lose sight of when we talk about coming together, So, but you know, we'll never ever avoid the spoilers. We can do our very best though to do that, you know. But at the end of the day, practice will determine all.
Yes.
You know, some people will talk and they will say, all right, well, let's get on with this. And we soon start to see who is genuine and who is not. And who is not, you know. So from that point of view, I mean, within our Saturday school, I mean, we have, my gosh, our volunteers, we have Sister Julieta, we have Sister Afria, we have Sister Lorraine, you know, we have Brother Barry, we have Sister Kalila, we have Brother Vince.
Oh, wow.
You know, we have Brother Marvin, I mentioned Lorraine. You know, so much that there's Sister Missy, Brother Coyote, Brother Ian, so much.
Wow, wonderful.
You know,
Amazing.
Sister Lydia, Elder T-Way, give up their Saturday every morning, volunteering just for our children.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And we have to give thanks for, because if they didn't recognize the significance and the sheer importance of this work in their hearts, like felt it, I don't think they could be doing what they're doing. But you've seen how much they value their community and actually want to see it race forward and have a positive outcome for the children. This is amazing.
Yeah.
This is wonderful.
Definitely.
Amazing.
And so I just want to remind our community again, and I'm going to give you a phone number. The Afruika Bantu Saturday School Kwanzaa celebration tomorrow, Lord of mercy, Saturday the 29th of December 2018, 4 p.m. We hope to finish about 8, probably go until 8:30, but we're going to do our best to stick to time. Abbott's Park, St. Martin's Estate, Upper Towsdale, Southwest 2, Free PW. Phone number 07486 388 587. I'd also mention that we've invited, the Global African Congress, Twilight Bay, Stop the Killing. None of them are going to have more than 5 minutes. So trust me, you won't be getting in a big long lecture. What it's just going to be about is just for them to say a little bit about what they're doing.
Okay.
And if people want more, they can see them afterwards.
Yes.
We've got down the Reparation March Committee, Brother Bandaka and his beautiful wife, Sister Kai, from the Cable and Revivalist Movement, and as I've mentioned, the student ministry. Now, if I was to just give one little example of the ministries in terms of action,
Yes.
I mean, my son, he went to Carnival last year,
Yes.
and with his friends, not bragging, but they were all fellow graduates, and the police just decided to go attack him
Oh.
and charged him for assault. He was assaulted, you know, by the police.
Wow.
They actually had the cheek to come and brazenly come in front of a court to say that my son jumped out when they've got a serial, which is about 23 police just a patrol in a one little group.
Yeah.
All of them padded up like them ready to go to war.
Yes.
And then they said that my son just jumped out and thumped one of them in their belly.
That's nonsense.
And
Against such a group of people. Yeah. Okay.
you know, in the middle of
Okay.
Carnival. So and they put him on assault charges that he couldn't get a legal aid. Right? And we know from the police side, they're not short of money. They will bring out their lawyers like nothing. So we were supported by the Community Ministry of Justice, who, number one, was able, because they provide a service of going to police stations 24 hours okay, to make sure that our young children are supported when they're in these places. When he came out of the police station, I mentioned that he couldn't get legal aid. They provided lawyer, solicitor, and lawyer to defend my son. And after about 9 months, and you mentioned earlier on about trauma, it was very traumatic for him. But we finally was victorious. And now we're taking a case against the police. Now, this is a young man that just graduated in biomedical science. He's done everything that any parent would want their child to be doing. And at the end of the day, the police just see him as just another black man.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, this is why when we talk about education, we got to really put it within the context of community. Because if we don't build up our own community support, a simple attack, well, it's not simple, but an attack such as that is really traumatizing for many of our people, our young people.
Yes.
You know, and I've seen examples of young men going through this and just basically just gave up. You know, just became depressed and never come out of the depression. And get now dependent upon another wicked institution, which is their mental health system.
And that's again us failing in our responsibility of being supportive to each other if we're looking at the first principle of Kwanzaa.
Yeah, that's right. But I think this principle also I've got to concretize into organized bodies.
Yes.
You know, we've got to have organized bodies of resistance. Because if we don't do that, it can't be with the best of intentions. No one person can deal with this problem. You know, you just burn yourself out.
Yeah, it needs structure and organization and strategy.
That's right. So that's what we're aiming to push through the Kwanzaa celebration. You know, we've got to celebrate, but we're not doing it under any illusion.
Yes.
We know we've got work to do. And oh yes, by the way, I have an interesting small debate we're going to be having at the Kwanzaa.
Yes.
Which is going to be looking at the, what would you call it now? What we would say is the gap between the elders and the young people from the what we call it is the Windrush legacy. But within that, we've now got a terrible gap within our community amongst the younger people and the older people.
Yeah, I think
we've got to look at how we can bridge that gap.
Yes, absolutely. I saw something from a psychology report which was very interesting, and what they did was they got the elders in the community in you know, one of the towns outside of London. They got the elders who were all isolated, brought them out and had one of those ringer rides that went around and got the elders and brought them to specific nurseries. The reason why they did that is to do exactly what you're talking about, starting to build that gap. So from very early, children start to have dialogue with much older people. So when they reach teenage years, they're not withdrawn when they see an elder and engage with them. So that is a really good point that I've seen displayed and has really helped with those connections. They have to learn to communicate first of all with each other.
Yeah, we definitely think that's important. So our Kwanzaa is, you know, we don't want to look at it as an event but a process in which that what we really continue to go forward, including everyone, because we're not going to go nowhere if the elders can't understand the young people and the young people can't understand the elders. We're not going anywhere like that. So we're seeking to address those points. And let me mention very quickly, Sister Eshe and Sister Shola, also very supportive of us.
Wonderful.
At the Saturday school there, including Brother Ian. I never remember everybody, but I have just so much respect for these people who just give up their Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Year in, year out, you know, for our children.
Yeah.
And I also will say that for those that maybe cannot attend the Saturday school in the South London area, we do have tutors who is prepared to travel to give people a one-to-one specialist kind of support there. So,
and for the parents who want to get in contact with those, how do they do that? Is it via your website, or is there a number that they should call directly?
Yeah, let me give you the number. Sorry. The number again for that is 07486 388 587. And for those people within the community that has been touched in any way from some of the words that I have expressed today, and they're encouraging the work in which that what we're doing, that they may not be able to come over to the Kwanzaa, they may not be able to come to the Saturday school, but they want to give some support, then I would like to give, if at all possible, our account number and sort code.
Yes, please.
That people can then give a little direct debit or a one-off payment. We're not funded, and we appreciate every support. So, the ABSS bank account is the NatWest. Account number is 506 01709. Sort code 60-20-39. If you got the number, they can always come back to us. I know that your time is probably running out soon, my sister.
Yes, but please continue. We've got about 2 minutes. We've got about 2 minutes.
I have 2 minutes left. And just to say that, you know, as a community, we've come a long way. We've had our setback, but I am very clear that when we come together, we can create and do even more than what our ancestors have done. We must be clear that the system is doing what it's been set up to do, which effectively is to keep us oppressed. But we can't dwell too much on that, although we can't avoid it. But our role is our liberation, and that means coming together. So it's not about always pointing the fingers outwards, it's important, but we've got to say, what can we do together? And once we understand that, we will go very far. Enough respect to my sister Gold Onyx as well.
Yes.
A sterling sister within our community, doing some fantastic work. So yes, my sister, I just really urge our people again to come out to the Kwanzaa. Afruika Bantu, Saturday the 29th, St. Martin's Community Center, Southwest 2, 3PW. Phone number, last time I'm going to give it out, 074 86 388 587. I want to thank you, Sister Lel, for reaching out to me. I think you're a beautiful sister, very conscious, very, very impressed with the work in which that you're doing, your understanding. And I just hope that, you know, you also continue from strength to strength. I also hope, as well as I know it will, that Bless FM continues to do the wonderful work it's doing in our community.
Give
and
thanks.
On that, I'd like to just say thank you.
Give thanks, and thank you for speaking with us tonight and sharing the great works that you've been doing. It is paramount that this continues within the community, because it's important to invest in the future of the children, because they will be the next generation and our next nation. So give thanks for, and may you always be blessed with what you are doing, because the work is immeasurable and it's so important. So give thanks, and I hope it sends forth so that other people within our community get to hear and understand what is actually going on, and do actually reach out to the ABSS. So that's the Afruika Bantu Saturday School.
Thank you.
Yes. Give thanks,
Thank
Brother
you.
Minkah.
Give thanks, sister, and we'll talk. We'll definitely talk more.
Yes, we
All right,
will.
you
we
take
will.
care.
You take care. Give thanks.
All
Good.
right.
All right. Blessed.
Bless you.
Yes, so that there was the brother, the wonderful Brother Minkah from the ABSS, Afruika Bantu Saturday School. And we're going to play out on one last track for you. Thank you for your ears tonight. Thank you for Bless Management for providing the platform, and Brother Minkah there for sharing with us the great works that he's been doing and been part of. So the last track we're going to play is by Tenor Sterling, and it's called Return to Your Glory. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and best of luck for the future and the new year soon to be.
In the name of His Imperial Majesty, return, 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 return. Return to your glory, 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 my brothers and sisters. Return to your glory, 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 from the state of amnesia. Return to your glory, 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 my brothers and sisters. Return to your glory, 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 from the state of amnesia. Return from the state of self-annihilation. Once again, take your rightful place upon creation. You see, return like sheep returning to the flock. Return like how the birds return to the treetops. Remember your history, the roots of civilization. Full time for recovery, yes, it's the healing of the nation. Glory, 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 my brothers and sisters. Return to your glory, 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 from the state of amnesia. Return to your glory, 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 my brothers and sisters. Yeah, return to your glory, 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 from the state of amnesia. Amnesia. Return from the state of amnesia. Return from amnesia. From the state of amnesia. You see, amnesia is forgetfulness due to serious injury, inexpressible shock and fatigue. In this case, due to slavery, we were warned in a Deuteronomy. Lamentation tell about you and me. When I turn to Revelation, behold a Rastafari crowning on creation. Glory, 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 my brothers and sisters. Return to your glory, 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 from the state of amnesia. Glory, 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 my brothers and sisters. In the name of His Imperial Majesty, return, 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 return.